Today, it's ChillPoint Web 3. What does that mean? We don't know, but nobody else does either, so it's okay.
Invest now.
No. Let's go back to GeoCities.
Yeah, you're right. The web was so much more fun on GeoCities.
Go back to GeoCities where everything was nice.
I mean, it was loud, visually and auditorially, but
I had a MIDI jukebox on my website.
of course you
in
did.
the 90s. So all Sailor Moon themes.
I found before like fanfiction.net,
Mm-hmm.
I found a website someone had made to put their fanfiction on, and every page had a different Sailor Moon music to go with the thing, which you think would be great. But in practice, it actually kind of sucks to try to be reading while like fight music is going on the entire time, really intensely and very loud.
I would not think that was great.
No.
I would know immediately that was a bad. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to ChillPoint, the game where the show.
Yeah, the game.
The game where we talk about the week's TV shows. Wait, the stream where we talk about the week's video game news, and we also talk about episode of ChillPoint that just went up.
What kind of game would ChillPoint be?
It's got to be like
Visual novel?
some sort of visual novel type, like
Or a quiz game.
choose your own adventure sort of thing.
It'd be a quiz game like Jackbox has. It's like we bring up a bunch of things about, did you know that this is happening? True or false?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk about what the episode of ChillPoint that went up on Thursday. Starting with the Diablo 3 single player mode. Single self. What's it called?
Solo.
Solo.
Solo self supply or something.
Okay.
Solo self found. That's it.
Right.
Which a few people in the comments took issue with Graham being like, "What is the point of this?"
Actually, I was surprised that this. Well, I mean, I don't play this genre of game really, so it was. I was really surprised that this was more common in this style of game to have like a kind of a solo mode that you can't trade with your alt account, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, and to be honest, when I marked this story, I was in the same boat as Graham, in the sense that I've played Diablo 3, and I played through it in single player, and then I finished it, and then I stopped.
Yeah. Well,
And so when you play it like that,
Yeah.
what they're describing in this new mode sounds exactly like what you've been doing.
Okay.
Because what they're doing here is like you can't trade between characters, you can't get a party together to help you out. There's a bunch of restrictions.
Okay.
But those aspects only really come into play in the sort of late game, post game stuff.
Oh, all right.
So if you're not sort of into that, and you just sort of played it just sort of through the story,
Like how you would have played Diablo 1, for example.
then you might not realize what the differences are. So yeah,
Interesting.
often like if you want to play through and you can play again, and you can like trade stuff between your characters, and you can you can have a big group and go around.
solo
and do stuff.
self-found just sounds very. It sounds funny if you've never, especially like I don't know if that's the terminology for this kind of thing in the first place or not. So if I've never heard it before, it sounds funny. It sounds like bad smell air.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it tells you anything.
You got sometimes you just have to go out into the cursed moors and find yourself. You need to just go solo self-found and meet up with the real whatever necromancer barbarian inside.
Mm-hmm.
It is the terminology. Okay, interesting. Okay.
Also, Lurkerspine says Diablo 1 also had online. And I'm like, sure, but not if you played it in bed with your girlfriend on PlayStation. You just kind of, you worked with each other while you were playing, and that was it.
Is this a real example?
Yeah, it's a real example. I'd never played Diablo, or I played a little bit of Diablo on my PC before, but I was hanging out at my girlfriend's place. And she's like, do you want to play Diablo? I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's do that. And she's like, cool, we'll play 2-player simultaneous. And she hauled out her PlayStation. I'm like, this is a thing? And we did. We just played on the PlayStation 1. We played on the PlayStation. And I was like, this is not bad. I kind of like this.
Beej's secret past. Apparently he's played other things than Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my girlfriend had said, do you want to play Diablo? I'm like, yes, girlfriend. I am down to do whatever the hell you want to do.
If you wanted to play Kingdom Hearts with me, would you play Kingdom Hearts with me?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. You see, I'm 20 years older now.
You were young and foolish.
Yeah.
We're married, so it doesn't have to impress me anymore.
But, yeah, it's like, if you're used to a certain way of, like, if you expect that the game is single player and all you want to do is play it single player, and your definition of what that means is I turn on the game, I start playing the game, and I don't do anything, like I don't roll another character, or I don't do any of those other things. Of course, you are then playing it the way that you would think the game is supposed to be played, because it never occurs to you that you should try to do one of these other things. And so to be like, well, actually, no, there's a whole new game mode where you can play that way. It's like, was I doing something remarkable? Was I being amazing? Did I get good without knowing it? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is season 29, I believe.
That was...
Which, I mean, at this point, it's like, yeah, I feel like the people who are still playing, who haven't just moved on to Diablo 4, probably are the people who are really hardcore into 3 and very excited for this even.
And as somebody mentioned, this is sort of connected to, they are in the process of kind of sunsetting Diablo 3. How long that process will go on, I don't know.
So are they setting it up then so it's like, hey, so when we turn the servers off, don't worry, you still have a way to play the game?
Except, well, I mean, Diablo 3 was famously got in huge trouble because it was Blizzard, when they were first experimenting with always on, always online, but still kind of a single player game.
Right.
And when it first came out, the servers crashed and it was a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, by the time now that when Diablo 4 came out, people are a lot more blasé about that kind of thing because we've all been, you know, beaten down by the by always online as a thing. But
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad Graham ends up looking a little silly in this to some people, just because now I've learned something new.
I also think it's kind of I hope that in some ways to the ChillPoint audience that it also acts as a bit of a window into how we approach gaming. Is that if it's like my understanding of Diablo was always that it's supposed to, even when I hear that there's all this online stuff and multiplayer and leaderboards and battle.net and all that, I just always still looked at Diablo as being like it's a single player game. Sure, there's maybe these multiplayer elements they bolted onto it, but like it's like, oh, it's primarily supposed to just always be a single player game. That's how I would have played it. And it's like you're kind of seeing how a lot of us play games.
And it's and I mean that comes out a lot of the time in ChillPoint stories, in the sense that, you know, there will often be, you know, a rash of stories about, say, you know, Destiny or Zelda or, you know, whatever we
personal biases,
whatever we personally, and that's not because we only want to do stories about what we know, but it makes it easier to know whether a story is interesting or not. Like that happens sometimes where it'll be like, whoa, look at this weird thing, and people will be like, yeah, that has always done that.
Yeah, that's normal. And it's like, are you sure it should be?
I do like somebody talked about Earthen One saying it's like if you never like went to a Pokemon center to heal up your Pokemon, and you just we're like, well, I guess he died.
Yeah.
And that's how you played Pokemon. And then somebody came out, somebody was like, hey, we're now supporting the Nuzlocke run where you can't do it. You're like, wait, what?
And your Pokemon die and you can't use them again. It's like, yeah, that's the point.
Wait, you could keep using your Pokemon?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Anyway. Let's talk about empty boxes.
I
Yeah.
think these are cool.
I think so too.
The number, there were also, the number of people in the comments who were like, kind of actually want these.
Yeah.
I mean, I have shoe boxes from purchasing shoes that I keep things in because they're really great for organizing things.
A shoebox.
And
Yeah.
Splatoon has a great aesthetic.
Yes.
And a shoebox, yeah, it's like just a handy form factor for a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all tend to follow the same size. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is kind of funny that they're a little shorter than the sandals, though I do assume because the sandals are thinner, that you could probably tilt them.
So I did some math in my brain.
People were like, you could just put it in diagonally.
Well, that's the thing is I'm like, in order to put them in diagonally, right? Because if they're 35 from tip to toe, kind of, or heel to toe kind of thing. If you got a 35 centimeter one, and these are 33 long, it's like, okay, well now, so you're saying, well, I have to turn it like this, and it's like, they're wide enough that I don't know if you could actually get the rounded edge. It might be enough, but I doubt it. And I was like, maybe you have to turn them both sideways and put them in like that. But then I think they're too high then to actually fit in the box. So I just kind of went with the idea that it's not going to fit. Let's just say they're not going to fit, and let's get on with the story because that's checkpoints. But maybe they could.
I like working out the trigonometry for like, wait, okay, so rise over run. If we rotate it, does that work within the... Anyway.
Yeah, but they look neat.
They really do.
It makes sense to me that they show up flat packed.
Yeah, that's how that's how I'd want to receive them too, right? Like it's like if I bought all four of them, I'm surprised they don't actually have a 4-pack, but
that's a little weird to me.
Like might even be just a Japanese thing of like, hey, we're going to sell them to you individually because then you have your choice,
I feel like if these were in the North American Nintendo store, they would maybe do it as you
buy the pack of 4.
The platinum points thing.
Well, because these are like, it's like they're in the My Nintendo store for Splatoon, but I think that's literally like this is just it's just a store where you can buy stuff for yen, right? And I can kind of understand that they might be like, well, we'll bring them over here, but we'll make them prizes that you can buy with your platinum points.
Like, I just could see them doing that over here.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them doing. Oh, we'll make them printables.
Why don't you make 3? And then package the 3 in the 4th to ship it.
Absolutely. I need a box. I think they're really cute though. You're right. They have an excellent aesthetic, and all of the stuff that's the what are they called right now? There's a whole campaign they're doing in Splatoon 3 that has the word ink in it, and I can't remember what it is,
but
it's like you do get like when you get shipments from Amazon or something sometimes where it's a box with another box like that fits perfectly inside that one box. You're like, I'm so glad we did this.
In the sense, if you got these shipped, if you had the shoe box being the box that's being shipped as a straight box, they're gonna put stickers and stuff on it. They're gonna ruin it.
Yes, that's true.
So you need a box that's like pristine, obviously. The I mean, what's funny about that too is that part of the insight into shipping and stuff in my job is that I talk with PMC about how do you package stuff when it gets sent out to people? Because sometimes we've ended up with problems that people have received things. It's like, this has been damaged. It's like, okay, so how do we actually pack things and how do we avoid this in the future and that and part of this discussion about the Moon-Based Spacelines merchant, in fact, was that it's like, well, some things are going to come in a box, and then we also have a poster, but that has to go in a tube. But then if we have to do the whole bundle thing together, how do you package a box of something with a tube of something, and then try to make that all fit together in one thing? And
it's like this sort of the commercial industrialized version of like trying to wrap a Christmas present
Yeah,
for somebody.
it really is. Because then you're like, well, then I got a tube that's like this, but I got a box that's only like this big, but I got the tube that goes beside it. But do I put that in a larger box? But then how big of a box? But if you make it too big of a box, then it's like it's a pain in the ass to kind of make everything fit, and so many of them got purchased, right? So it's like we have to then stock X number of boxes so we can actually put all this stuff in there when it's finally, when everything gets in here and it's time to ship everything. It's like, yeah, so yeah, they've been working out things and talking to me about it, and I'm just like, yeah, boxes are interesting. Cardboard is a hell of a drug. We use a lot of it now.
It's true.
Yeah.
Zynga.
Speaking
of being hooked on things that are like drugs.
Sugar?
Yeah. Zynga has revealed Sugar Town.
They've revealed nothing.
An IP, yeah. They've
revealed how they'd like you to give them money.
There's a lot of smoke, but not a lot of fire going on. I think that's it. There's just a lot of random stuff happening. What?
I just realized there's all sorts of blue spots on the inside of the glass I've been drinking out of. Like, it never really got clean in the...
I'm gonna go get a different glass.
Kinda. I'm gonna go do that. Anyway, you guys talk about Sugar Town. I'm
Okay.
gonna go not drink paint.
Yeah, that's probably what
that
was paint glass.
Probably used as like a water glass for a painting stream.
Yep.
That's why I don't use
In
those
fact,
for
that
drinking.
color of blue, we could probably figure out what stream it was.
Oh, that
based
might
on
be
the
mine.
color of blue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used a lot of blue on that.
So yeah, Zynga, they're doing Sugar Town, Web 3, which is
It's the new
which means
hot
it's about
word,
which
I
means it's
guess.
going to be, it's like a cryptocurrency thing. They're so afraid of saying the word NFTs
Good.
that that's a positive that they don't want to say
Should
it.
be afraid.
So we don't know.
This isn't gonna make it better, but
So yeah, who knows what actually will like be a product out of this, if anything. Like I would definitely say there's like a very high percentage chance that nothing happens. It's just a big pit that money gets thrown into. And
Graham did he talked a lot about this in the after show part where he went through like some of the FAQ and whatnot, and it from the FAQ, like you don't get any real information about what it actually is. You get what feels like is meant to be like world building, and world building can be cool, but in this sense feels like it's just obfuscation.
Obfuscation?
Yeah. To
because it's like
to not tell you anything, but to make you feel okay in buying into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, because like even to the extent of like, where is it? Like, is it one game? Is it multiple games? Where's the stuff coming from?
Yeah.
They're being kind of weirdly like coy and kind of in universe. It's like, oh,
the games are made by auras.
The games are made by the auras.
You purchase auras.
So the things that you
so
buy.
It's not like a fun name we're using for devs for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like some other thing.
The auras build games. ORAS.
Yeah.
So auras, they build games, but then yours also they're going to be so Zynga will be minting the Sugar Town auras that you can then purchase like you would buy in Bored Ape.
And there will be games in Sugar Town, and within the fiction of Sugar Town, those are theoretically made by the auras.
Yeah.
Maybe. But, it just kind of...
Or maybe, when you buy the aura, you are actually purchasing a developer.
And some poor sap in India who has to make an Endless Runner app for you to play because you've spent $50,000 on auras.
Adopt a developer.
Maybe that would be better. Like,
I don't trust that. Given how I've seen a lot of
Patreon.
Yeah, except the way I've seen a lot. For one thing, ownership of a person, but also the idea of the way I've seen gamers treat devs online. I don't think any of them should be able to adopt a dev.
That's true.
I don't think they'll water and feed them.
They will.
And they will definitely not be good for them.
We would definitely need some equivalent of the SPCA for devs.
This really bugged me when I wrote this, because I was like, you'd put it up, and I was like, well, time to see what this SugarTown thing is that's going to be. And I read the article. I'm like, oh, okay, it's Web3 BS. It's put shit on the blockchain. It's going on to Ethereum. I'm assuming it's going to be not proof of stake. Then I think it's going to be proof of, or not proof of work. It's going to be proof of stake, or whatever the thing is. It's, it's still putting shit on the blockchain. It doesn't need to be on the blockchain to have a video game. But obviously, I think the idea is also to, like, the things that you'll own, then you'll be able to move them between games. And it's like between games on SugarTown, which is just SugarTown. Like, it's like, are you planning on taking your shit and putting it into Farmville? Like, is that the final game here? But also, when you go to the website, you get this sense that, oh, I see you're building like a GTA kind of with anthropomorphic animals, and it's like you're gonna. You can kind of get the sense of, I see what you're trying to accomplish. Everyone's like committing crimes and like stealing cars, and there's corporate malfeasance, and there's a guy who looks like a fucking wolf standing at the top of all of it. And I'm like, that's interesting, VP of Web3 Matt Wolf, that there's a guy at the top who seems to be in control of all this shit. And I just was like looking at this thinking, okay, that's well, tell me more about what's going to go on. And it's like, so Zynga is, I don't give a shit about what Zynga is. Well, Zynga W3 is, I don't care what that is. What is SugarTown? It's like, SugarTown is a game where we're going to be minting a whole bunch of stuff that you'll be able to buy and do this and whatever. I'm like, where's the part where what the game's about?
It's not a game.
It's not a game. It's a platform?
It's a transmedia experience.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, what's the fucking plot? Like, what? Like, give us season 1. Let us know what the point of your game is. And let people in to actually do something with it. And I mean, obviously it's coming, but it's like, do you not know what it's for? Is the whole idea is like, we'll get people excited about this amorphous thing, and then hopefully that'll make people want to come up and buy stuff. And like, and the thing is, you're probably right. Like idiots will come and buy your stuff that may or may not end up working with the thing that you're making if you don't sell enough of it. And I don't know. I felt really like. I felt ripped off by something that I wasn't even going to buy.
All right.
I was thinking about also, like, if you think about like movies like, say like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or like Cool World or these movies where it's like kind of cartoons mixed with real life. You get kind of the like adult cartoon thing. Mm-hmm. SugarTown would definitely be like the red light district of the cartoon world.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, come on down to SugarTown. Like
it does sound really seamy. Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
especially when you say it like
that.
Because
it's either because Candyland is one thing, but SugarTown sounds a little bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing
there.
There's nothing here.
Yeah.
It's just, this is the thing they're doing.
Maybe
one day they'll tell us what it is, but...
It's when you want to, like, get the people, get the top person involved and, put a shock collar on them and be like, what is SugarTown? And I'm going to shock you if you don't.
Yeah, tell me
if you don't make sense.
Every time you give me an answer that doesn't make any sense, or just that I don't like. How about that? Just every time that I'm pissed off at this idea. Which is now take this, contrast that with Neopets, which did try the blockchain thing briefly, and then is now removed themselves from that idea. The world of Neopia is now like this different idea, and like contrast these two things together, where it's like. At least World of Neopia is like, hey, so Neopets was super cool in the 2000s, and that's what we'd like to get back to, is like go back 20 years ago and be like, what if we could bring this same experience to you guys? And we're going to bring back 50 of these games, and here's pictures of all the old games and stuff. And there's this, I mean, familiarity with what it already was helps people who already know, but I don't really know what it was.
Sure.
But man, was there a thing there where they said, here's our platform. Here's 50 games, if you want to go look and see what they are. There's 50 games that we're hoping to bring back and do stuff. Here's the idea of what we're trying to promote with this thing, and we want to make it an experience that's much like the one was before. And you can see what that was before because you were there before, but there's also records of it before. And I'm like, okay, so I can at least glean a lot of information about what this platform is going to become. It's the same
Sure.
as what they've already made.
But like this is true of like a lot of things, right? Like Roblox is a platform where there are games on it,
Yeah.
and Neopets and that Penguin Kid one,
Club Penguin?
Club Penguin,
Yeah.
and all of those, and Sugartown, especially if you don't know anything
Mm-hmm.
about any of these things, will just sound like the other things to you.
Except they haven't even sort of committed to the idea that it is going to be like a collection of games.
Yeah.
That's true.
They're being even like a little bit coy about that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's probably that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if someone comes up to you and you know that Roblox is super hot and like these other things have been popular and you don't know anything about video games or how that works, and they're like, hey, we're going to start a new one, you could be on the ground floor, and you don't care about video games, but you care about investment.
Yeah.
Right.
We have investment.
Yeah, you can definitely,
Those are the people they're going for.
it's obviously got all the buzzwords and everything, but
All
anyway.
I ask is if you're going to make a video game, then
still
at
don't
least
know
know
what-
what your video game is going to be about. Like,
I still don't know what Web3 is.
Nope, that's the intention.
I don't know what happened to Web 1 and Web 2. I think they're dead.
No.
no, Web 2.0 is
Yeah,
still
Web
maintains.
1 and Web 2 are around.
Are they?
They're good. Web 3 is not a thing.
Yeah. Which sucks because what's going to happen is that at some point when a lot of this stuff crashes and like it crashes and burns even more than it does, when the next revolution of what the web is going to look like comes around, they'll be like, do we call it Web 3.0? And it's like, we can't. These guys sullied it. They unilaterally decided this is what we're going to call it. It's like if a bunch of shitheads came around and says, we're going to call ourselves Loading Ready Run 2.0, and it's like,
I mean,
I wish you wouldn't. We'll see you in court.
Yeah.
Except, you can't really go to court
That's
on Web
yeah.
2.0. But,
Yeah, that's a bit different.
but I love, there's a line from back in, for like Ask a Ninja, speaking of old
Yeah.
things. But there's
Can
a
I
great,
have a sip of that?
he was talking, he has
No,
this,
like from your glass. I don't want to drink out of the container.
he has this whole thing about how he's like ninja, the ninja web is like way
wow, This
ahead.
stuff is weird now.
Is like way ahead of what the regular web is. And he's like, you guys got Web 2.0. We have Web Candle plus Monkey. What does that mean? I can't even explain it to you.
Yeah, if you don't have a... Oh my god.
Anyway, some Pokemon games are not that great.
Okay, here we go.
Now, they're super fun games to play, but they're a little buggy.
Recently.
And the latest Pokemon Scarlet and Violet could look better. It's not great looking, and especially I was playing it and like switching back and forth playing it and playing Zelda.
Oh, for goodness.
And it's like that's 5 years old at this
Breath of
point.
the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
5 years old, and it looks so much better.
Yeah.
Than Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
For what is supposed to be like a flagship game
Yeah.
from the Pokemon franchise, and it's like your flagship game that you released does not look as good as something that came out 5 years ago from the company that you're ostensibly working with. But we talked about these problems.
Yeah, so because the story that this came out of, I feel like gets bogged down in like the concept of what Kathleen read out is there, but like because she goes into a bunch of the games and how they've released a game every year. I feel like it gets lost in the story that she reads sounds like it's from November, because this like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out and being buggy as all heck is not news.
Right. Right now it isn't, or shouldn't feel like it is.
I agree. Pokemon Arceus and that one, Scarlet and Violet, came out in the same calendar year, but one was in January and one was in November.
And they're also by two different development teams within Game Freak.
I think so. I don't know for sure. I know that the Diamond and Pearl remake was definitely done by a different dev team.
Yeah.
The remakes generally are. Let's Go is a remake, a remaster, something.
Yeah, the original games, yeah.
If you actually look at the mainline releases, they're kind of, and you take out the remakes, they're really releasing something about roughly every 2 years.
Yeah.
But the story that this actually comes out of is the fact that there was an interview that comicbook.com did with someone, Kato something.
Takato Utsunomiya, Chief Operating Officer.
They had said that quote of, we need to work at doing stuff so that we have a higher quality of product that's coming out. Because when I looked at the list of games that were out there, and like Let's Go, Eevee, and Pikachu were not bad games. They were actually highly polished games of that thing. Diamond and Pearl, some people didn't really care for, but it was a 1-to-1 remake.
Yeah.
And done by a different dev team. Yeah. Sword and Shield was fine. It wasn't as fun. People had some problems with textures, but what they were mostly mad about was that not every Pokemon existed inside the game.
Yes.
Right.
Right? Violet and Scarlet is definitely like, why is it doing all of this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, it should have had more time in the hopper. And I agree with that. It's still a lot of fun for me. But
for a lot of people.
The thing that I've seen suggested as speculation by some people is that Pokemon's not just a video game. The Pokemon Company is video games for console, mobile, TV shows, card games, and all these things.
You might call it a transmedia experience.
Every time a new set of something comes out, everything else in that machine is also running. So to put a delay in a game, I don't know when you can put a delay in that game to have it not come out without interrupting everything else. So I don't know if it's the same as like Zelda that doesn't have anything else going on for it. Then their game, they're like, we're going to delay it by another 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, there's probably a pretty big pipeline of, you know, the anime and associated products are all set up and ready to go for when Scarlet and Violet come out. And so you can't be like, hey, we're going to have to push this thing back for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's got to do some more stuff, because then, everything else is going to be...
We have the anime already set up to go with this, and we have the new cards that have been created for the TCG that have to release 6 months after the game comes out. We have all these... And if you keep delaying this stuff, we can't be...
Yeah,
because we are on a
ultimately,
treadmill.
Pokemon is... I'm sure there are people there who are like, no, it's like the best gaming experience that we're trying to do, and we want it to be fun, and we're doing whatever, but it is ultimately a money machine.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I've been, playing Scarlet and Violet with my brother, and it's a testament to how good the core gameplay loop of Pokemon is.
Right.
The catching the Pokemon, the battling, that kind of stuff. Like that, that it's still a lot of fun to play, even with, various bugs and bad graphics and the multiplayer stuff not working that well.
Yeah.
It's still fun to play because, and so they have that, they've got that core there that is very valuable. So yeah, hopefully they can tighten up the graphics on level 3.
I want to try to draw a bullshit parallel.
Oh, no.
All right.
Okay.
Stand back.
Go.
Yeah.
Stand back, everyone.
It's like Apple. That there are people out there who see Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. They see kind of what's happening with Pokemon games, especially as they've been going more and more 3D over the time, and being like, hey, there's a lot more there's a lot more bugs cropping up in this game. There's a lot more problems that are happening with whatever. There's a lot. There's hey, how can you wait? No, stop playing. Stop. Listen to me and stop playing the game. The game isn't good because all these things. And it's like, do you play the game? It's like, of course I don't play the game because it's just gotten more and more buggy over time. It's like, but do you play the game? It's like, no. Well, have you? Where do you see the screenshots? Well, I go online. I see other people post the screenshots. I see the videos and I share the videos and whatever. And you need to stop playing Pokemon because I've seen things that show that it's bad. And it's like, yeah, but do you play it? Have you sat down and played an hour or two of this and and like me, maybe like I don't play Pokemon, right? It's like, but I, a person playing Pokemon, have maybe seen the bugs maybe once an hour or something like that. It's like, well, then how can you put up with it? It's like, are you aware of how good the game is? How much fun I'm having? The dopamine response I'm having to all the cool stuff? How the loop is just engaging all sorts of like. Same thing with Apple, where it's like people get so mad about it, and it's like, right, but. Are you actually using? Well, I turned on a Mac one time, and then I didn't like what I saw, the whatever, and so then I just stopped using it. And it's like, yeah, but have you actually like used it for a few hours? Have you actually tried to do these kind of things? Well, no, I just did the thing, but then I just walked away and decided I don't like the look of it. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's kind of like, yeah, there's people. And you can pick anything. We can pick Windows. We can pick a whole bunch of stuff. Like, you know, I have all my own biases as well. But I'm like, I think it's that same kind of thing where it's like there are people who don't have a legitimate complaint. They just see a bunch of other like complaints or bugs or whatever, and they say, hey, I'm going to be mad about this too because I already have a bias built in that I don't like this thing. And so that just reinforces the bias that I don't like it. I do that shit a lot. I think we all we all have those moments. And I think it's the same kind of thing, is that you have people who are like, that's a terrible thing. It's like, yeah, but you know what? I actually get a lot of work done, or I have a really good time playing this game, or I have a lot of fun working on this car that never works all the time. It's like I have fun doing these things, and so it's enjoyable to me.
I mean, I would say though, with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is a game where I've seen probably every single person who has played it admit that it's buggy as shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't necessarily care as much.
And they don't want to stop playing the game either, right? They're like, I'll still keep playing the game because I'm having a great time with it. The bugs piss me off, but yeah, I'm having a good time otherwise.
And you can certainly, you know, I use Macs for lots of stuff. I use Windows for lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff on Mac that I don't like.
Yeah.
But
stuff that pisses me off.
But you know, that's how it goes.
But there's that thing of what are you willing to overlook to be a part of the process? And it's like a lot, you know, yeah, sometimes we end up doing that. We overlook stuff.
Yeah.
I think the thing that people find frustrating about Pokemon is that it's not it's sort of it's that like unforced goal or whatever you want to call it. Like it's like this shouldn't be hard, like for a modern development studio to make like the parts that it's not like they were implementing some brand new technology that they couldn't figure out how to do right. It's like this the like open world run around thing should be kind of locked in by now.
Yeah, the evolution has existed for over 20 years, and that this has come out of it. Have you not built your tool chain around these kind of ideas?
Well, I mean, this was the first open world Pokemon game.
Yeah.
For one.
But
if this game had come out 5 years ago, like more at the beginning of the Switch, there would definitely be a lot more forgiveness over what's going on because they made a lot of their stuff for portable. Than they ever did for this.
Yeah. But you just want to be like
Pokemon Arceus probably didn't help at all because that game is. It has its own like little bits of like pop-in problems, but they're like further away and stuff. But it's a much better game in terms of. And it's the bugs, like if you're going to compare it that way.
It's also pseudo open world as well, right? Like
there's essentially biomes that when you enter, there's a loading screen in between them.
Absolutely.
Right. But they're very large areas, so it has the same feel as something that's a little bit more open world.
Yeah, whereas I can run across the Tears of the Kingdom Hyrule from one end to the other without warping, and at no time does it slow down the process while I'm doing that. I can just kind of keep moving, and it's like, yep, you can just keep doing that. We're not going to have, you know, there might be a little bit of pop in here and there or whatever, depending on what it is you're looking at, but more often than not, it's like where you're looking and what's loading into view and everything else you're doing is just kind of happening as you're doing it, and we're not going to, there's not like a big, there's no sort of like problem there. It's like, sure, so
We're still comparing two different dev teams.
Yeah.
We're still
yes.
and one's more of a flagship thing for Nintendo as a brand versus Pokemon. Pokemon is not Nintendo. Nintendo owns like a third of the Pokemon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Game Freak is the one who's making these games. And
But just even from a technology perspective, you know, an open world game is not that big a technological leap
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's sort of frustrating about it, but you know.
Yeah, I really
That's how
hope
it is.
that they like the what's happened over time. Because we did talk about this also, I think, months ago. The idea that it's like you can see how each of these the 3Dification of Pokemon games. You can see the evolution of how those have influenced other games that have come after, right? It's like, okay, so we've done the work on the DS. Everything was still like in 2D, but then we did have was it Black and White that went for like more 3D environments. I don't know if it was them or XY or whatever it was, but
Black and White specifically. But there was a point where like you would walk in and there would be like fancy kind of cutscenes, or you would walk like across a bridge and the
still predominantly a 2D world though, but with like when you're in the cities and stuff,
it would change perspective.
And then you get into like Sun and Moon, which is that's around the same time where you're also getting like the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee games, and it's like, okay, so now we're seeing a lot more. It's still locked camera, but everything's 3D rendered.
Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu were I really liked because I played the first game, so getting to see it in a 3D way and then actually getting to see cutscenes play out. Was really interesting, and there were there were points where like the camera just moved, and I was like, "Oh, this is so exciting! I already know what's gonna happen."
Yeah.
Like, you know,
and then the kind of the idea that it's like they're pulling influences, like each team is probably pulling influences from each other to move between each project. And it's like, so now we've done this stuff with Let's Go, and it's like, well then Sword and Shield is going to be pulling influence from some ideas that they've seen implementation in Let's Go, but they do this really big thing, and people are like, I don't know if I like that. And then Arceus is coming out, and so there's like that's pulling influence from what they're seeing in Sword and Shield. And then while Arceus is being developed, obviously that Scarlet and Violet were probably pulling influence from what they're seeing in Arceus as well. Not to say that it's like, oh, we made Arceus, and then in a year, in 9 months or whatever, we made this. It's like, no, but you're seeing it early in the process. You know, you're letting people within the company probably see what other people are working on and trying to like use those tool chains to influence stuff that's going on in the other games, based on maybe whatever engine you're using, or if you're all using the same engine, because that happens a lot in Nintendo. They all tend to use the same engine. I think it's J++ or whatever. I don't know what they've evolved into now, but that could be the same thing in Game Freak, that the teams that are working on stuff are just somebody's constantly evolving the tool chain and the engines and stuff, and they're doing it based on the features that people want to see in the next game and the next game and the next game. And that might be how this is being developed, and they might not have anywhere near the expertise that a really big studio that spends 4 years on, like Bethesda or Ubisoft, right? Like,
I guess, but to call I don't know, to call Game Freak not a really big, like, that's the thing.
They still have to be pretty big to do this.
But like that's the thing with that. I have a little bit of like, it's like, yeah, I get that this is sort of relatively new territory for them and different stuff like that, but
you can hire those
you're
people.
being compared against the rest of the industry.
Yeah, and you can hire people who know how this stuff works and pull them into the company.
Maybe you could just, sure, you don't work for Nintendo.
Game Freak has 169 employees.
Yeah, so it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's not an indie.
Not giant. But,
definitely not an indie.
But and
so
you
2022.
And your buddies with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just be like, hey, how'd you do your grass?
Yeah!
Could we just get that little bit of code?
Yes! You're absolutely right.
I will say that I'm really glad that they've gone to the DLC expansion model. Not in terms of the fact that I want that kind of thing, but in terms of the fact that Pokemon's always done the 2-game thing, and then about a year or so later, the 3rd game would come out.
Right.
And they dropped off of that. They went kind of to like a sequel thing. They did Black and White 2, and then they did like Ultra Sun and something Moon. Deep Marine Moon. I can't remember that one's name. Maybe they were both Ultra. And then Sword and Shield came out, and that Sword and Shield a year later had DLC
expansion,
and that's what Scarlet and Violet is doing now. And I like that a little bit better in terms of you can buy the first game, but then when like the third one comes out with like the extra thing that's in it, you don't feel like I should have waited, which is like something a lot of people would do.
It'll be interesting to see, maybe down the line, with the whatever Switch 2 or Switch 3, we'll get like the re-release of Scarlet and Violet, and it'll be like, oh, this is what the game was supposed to look like.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
That could be kind of fun.
Yeah. They still do make 2 versions. I don't really care for that much either, but I understand the reasonings behind it. So
I mean, Scarlet and Violet has the thing where it's more than just like a couple Pokemon that are different.
Yeah, they've started changing up a few things like gym leaders and stuff. But like the whole point of there's Did You Know Gaming, I think, did a very comprehensive video about like what they originally wanted to do with Pokemon, or was have a thing that would automatically have different Pokemon from every other game that was being played out there. So there were essentially going to be like 256 different versions or something, but on one cart.
Right.
And
which they could totally do now.
They could do now, but I think they're too locked into.
That would be fun.
Thing.
Like just they take the whole list of Pokemon and give you 90% of them.
One of the reasons I like Pokemon Legends Arceus so much is it's just a single game.
Right. What you
can get. I think you can get basically everything out of it. But I also like the fact that it's an isekai.
It's fun too.
Pokemon mainline stuff is fun to watch hype for and PR for me, and sometimes it's fun to play. I like the spin-off games. I like Detective Pikachu. I like Mystery Dungeon. I like Pokemon Ranger. I like the idea of you're not just necessarily a trainer going out there. And so, like, Legends is great because it's like we're making a Pokedex for the first time. In order to learn Pokemon behaviors, you got to catch a lot of them, or you have to like see them or do stuff.
And I like that because, like, again, the core gameplay loop in Scarlet and Violet is great. So far, anyway, it is by far the least interesting story I have ever encountered in a Pokemon game.
Time to go to school.
I really don't like the basically complete lack of conflict. Like everything is. It's just school.
Right.
Like, you're not going to be the very best, the best there ever was. You're going to be, hey, if you do all the things and beat the Final Four, you can get into this, like, AP class.
Oh, yeah.
I like the fact that they tried to be like, oh, there's 3 different things you can do. Like, you can go help someone find ingredients, and you can go do this, and you can do whatever. I hate the fact that they're all about just fighting different Pokemon under different circumstances.
Yeah.
I really wanted, like, a... just go collect things option or take pictures option or something like that felt actually different.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find amazing about the
also, like, differentiate your badges. They're different badges. Please, in my book, tell me that they're different badges. Don't tell me I have 20 odd badges. I don't know what they're for.
Yeah.
The thing I love about trainers in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is they're not trainers. Running a Pokemon gym is like a very minor side gig.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They all have, it's like a side hustle.
Right, yeah.
They all have actual jobs.
Yeah.
Like
there's literally that guy who's a salaryman. Yeah.
There's a guy's a salaryman, there's somebody who's a streamer, there's somebody who runs a restaurant. Like, being a Pokemon leader apparently doesn't pay well.
Yeah.
Running a Pokemon gym.
And I like that idea of that you're like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old kid running around. This is your raison d'etre. You're kind of like, I live to catch and fight Pokemon. That's what I do. And it's like, that is every 10-year-old. It's like, I live to tell you about trains. Like, it's like, that's their thing, right?
Oh, there's this Pokemon short I should show you. It's super cute. It's like, there's this girl who really wants to, like, have a Pokemon and go be a Pokemon adventurer, but her parents are like, not yet, we don't think you're ready. And she, like, goes, she's, like, so determined, she spends her entire allowance at the Pokemon store. Like, she just puts this, like, giant, shopping cart basket with like all these Pokemon balls falling out of it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm buying stuff. And the cashier's like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Meanwhile, that cashier is working like, is earning $10 an hour, lives in some shitty walk-up apartment, like above the gym or whatever, and it's like, yeah, this is my 9 to 5, I do whatever, and then on the weekends, or, on a rare occasion, they get a buzz on their phone, it's like, oh, time to get my Mareep out and go, like, kick the shit out of a 10-year-old. Like, it's like...
Or get more usually get my butt kicked by a 10-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have to give them $5, and that's fine because the Pokemon League or whatever makes sure that I get some money to be able to fight these 10-year-olds to get them interested in shit. Okay. And all they're doing is looking at them being like, man, I remember when I was your age doing this stuff. You're going to hate it in 8 years when you graduate from school.
Think about it like the Olympics. You have to get a certified gym going so that you can be a gym leader.
Right.
And there's probably a bunch of logistics that you have to make. You have to probably have a type.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You can only have certain Pokemon types, and
that's competing in an event, yeah.
And you might have to have like. But, man, you could make a really cool management game out of trying to be a Pokemon.
And then you have to go to Pokemon Canada to be like, hey, we need more funding this year, and it's like, I'm sorry, like we can't afford it. It's like, but how am I supposed to compete against Pokemon Germany and Pokemon USA when they keep dumping all this fucking money into the sport?
You mean the water type Pokemon, and now I have to like make sure I have pools of water that are okay for the kind of Pokemon that I have.
Yeah.
I have saltwater Pokemon and I have clean water Pokemon, and don't get me started on the some that have evolved so they have some ice going on in there.
My headcanon for the Pokemon games is that your character is somehow the only one in the entire world who's figured out the whole thing where you don't have to have all of one type.
Ah, yes.
You can actually do like type matchups.
Yeah.
For some reason, nobody else has figured that out.
Right.
Also, you're allowed to have 6. You don't just have to have 2.
Right. It's like you have. How do you afford 6 Pokeballs? It's like these poor gym leaders who are living hand to mouth. It's like all I can do is find rocks, and so now I got to make this work.
Anyway.
Also, we should point out, no dev wants to ship a product with bugs. Let's just put that if you're, because it's like being a writer. Nobody wants to ship a book that has spelling errors in it. It's like that's just kind of how it is. So if the stuff's going out the way that it's going out, it's because that management is saying we gotta ship, and you're like, we can boot the game and it works, so I guess we'll. And meanwhile, all the devs are like, "Oh Christ, my name's on this." But,
hey, hello, Surge Coffee crew.
Hey.
The Brew Crew.
We're just grumbling and alternately grumbling and praising Pokemon.
It's kind of what you do with Pokemon.
Yeah.
You praise it and you grumble at it. It's both.
Speaking of big games.
Oh no. Oh right.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
It's such a huge game that it takes just under 9 minutes to beat.
Oh, well, that's going to be a short play it forward for me.
You just walk around the side of the island.
Yeah, so you're playing...
Everyone was so concerned. They're like, that play it forward could take like hours, Heather. And I'm like, no, apparently I can do it in 9 minutes.
Yeah, so I don't know what you're going to do for the rest of the time.
Maybe I'll just tell them about Pokemon.
In fact, and then there's also, so that's the any percent run is 858, although knowing these things by now that might have been improved.
Yeah. They're gonna be like, you can't have such a long dink in the game because that actually slows you down, the wind resistance. You have to tiny dink games. Yeah.
And 754 is the sex percent, which is that's a pretty short amount of time. So good job for that.
Yeah,
it's nice. I guess it's cool that you can last almost 8 minutes.
There's a 4-minute sex percent now.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually they don't want to get it to be less.
I've seen a criticism of the game and which is apparently something that happens with a lot of these sort of BioWare style games where you have like a party and there's romance options.
Right.
Is that nobody, like players, like to do the romance stuff.
Yeah.
And you as the developer want to make sure that that's available to them.
Yes.
And so, but then you run into this situation where basically any time you have like a positive interaction with one of your party
mates,
party members, that will then turn into sexy time.
Yeah, you don't necessarily know if the thing you're saying yes to is the thing you're saying yes to.
Oh, that's
It's like
awkward.
it's like that, you know. Hey, that was great. You did a good battle there.
Yeah.
All right, starts taking off all their
Whoa,
clothes.
whoa, hang on. Someone needs to, like, I mean, I know that
I'm hearing you say I'm gonna have to be mean to everybody.
Saints Row 4 did a great thing of that, the whole Mass Effect thing where it's like you can basically romance everybody who was part of your old crew as when you're on the spaceship with them. That you can just walk up and be like, hey, sex? And they're like, yeah, okay. And then, except I think Keith David's character was the only one you weren't allowed to do that to. I think he probably had kibosh. He's like, I'm not comfortable with that idea. But that idea of, yeah, somebody's going to have to kind of like work in a thing at some point to be like, so there's a party member that I have who's just baseline horny, and anytime you talk to them about anything, they're like, are you coming on to me? And they start taking their pants off.
That actually already exists in Baldur's Gate 3.
Is there really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
that's
there's
good.
a character who just thinks you're into them no matter what you do. I haven't watched any playthroughs or anything. I listen to some gaming podcasts, and because that's the hot game out that's right now, I hear like a few things here and there.
Is that a stereon? It sounds like everybody's trying to bed or prevent themselves from sleeping with a stereon.
I don't know. I do know that there's something that happens really early on where you can get kissed by a mind flare, and you do not want that to happen.
No.
It'll like kill you and possibly people around you or something.
It's called a mind flare. That's not.
I don't
No.
think you want.
Yeah.
I think it's more like you fail your role or something. I don't think it's a thing you intentionally try to do.
I have to. There's a 3 minute and 15-second sex percent run now, which just means that like the people who have this level of game, like I want them to stay out of the bars because they're gonna just spread social diseases. I love that old term. He's got a social disease. He's like, what? Like he talks too much?
Yeah.
He overshares?
Never shuts up.
Anyway. So, let's talk about some of the stories that didn't make it into the episode. Starting with NHL 24.
Oh yeah, I guess we're coming up on 2024 soon.
I read this and I was really interested in the implications of it because it sounded ridiculous to me. The big thing they're pushing with NHL 24 is we've rewritten the entire gameplay experience. We've done a complete revamp, and I'm like, it's hockey.
Yeah, which is always like one of those weird things in video games where you're like, but the rules of hockey haven't changed.
No,
what are you changing?
But here's what we're gonna do: is we're gonna give everybody a football.
So they have this new thing, which I mean, I love the way they companies market different things. Mm-hmm. So they've invented the exhaust engine.
Isn't that for cars?
Yeah.
It's basically players getting tired.
Oh,
Yeah.
exhausted. Not
That's a good
like
idea.
not like they're gonna put like little exhaust engines on their skates.
Now, NHL 94 had something like that, where if you had guys on the ice for too long, you could have them, like, the bar would wear out over time, you had to change
So-
the lines.
Yeah, it's just a stamina thing.
So no, what this is sort of the opposite, where if basically it's trying to
It's offensive pressure.
yeah, it's trying to illustrate the idea of so it's basically if you have possession in the on the opponent's side for a long time,
Yeah.
then and are like making making goal shots and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a system where they start getting tired basically, and like the goalie starts getting minuses because they have to they're keeping blocking shots and getting tired and stuff.
Yeah, because goalies get to wait about half of the game overall on their side, where they get just to drink water and just hang out and chill on their cell phone and shit. So they don't have to think about much until you're down in their end.
I don't think they chill on their cell phone. Well, no, they have those giant gloves, and you wouldn't have enough time to put them on if the puck suddenly gets over to your
You
side.
mean like an iPad
and then,
Pro.
And then your teammates will be really pissed off
Your
at you.
friends, let's be honest, they're all friends.
About the world doesn't work that way. Your teammates will be really pissed off at you about the fact that you you were playing on your phone and you couldn't get the glove back on to do your thing.
But
yeah,
I love
that
that
would be
idea.
considered to be a faux pas, I think.
Yeah.
I love that idea of that if you are in the opponent's, if you're in their past their blue line. If you're past their blue line, that the offensive pressure causes them defensively to have to kind of like defensively take damage in a way. It's like the more pressure you keep on them in their zone, that the more tired they're going to get over time. Because it's like I have to be alert. I have to make sure that if they're going to shoot, I got to be able to do whatever. But man, if I've had to make 3 great saves in a row, that and the audience gets all hyped and stuff for that too. That would be fun, right? If your goalie makes an amazing save, and the crowd goes wild, that you get pluses back. That it's kind of like you're buoyed by the fact that you made this amazing save, and it's like, yeah, and then like the momentum shifts, and it's like all of a sudden like the home crowd's on your side or whatever. I love that kind of idea.
They're also completely overhauling the physics and animations. So you're going to have you be able to deliver big hits to send an opponent flying over the boards or even break the glass.
That doesn't happen ever. Like maybe once in like 10 years it's happened.
Isn't it like plexiglass?
Yes.
Yeah. But isn't it cooler if in my video game I can just break things?
If you can just dunk a defenseman over the glass. And
I can just break things.
Yeah.
Still, neat idea. If they're going to turn it into NHL Jam, then okay, cool, yeah. This guy's on fire. He's melting the ice. But, yeah, kind of neat. You'll have easier to pull off highlight reel moves on the sticks because the developers decided to, quote, completely refresh the control setup. Right, overhead passing controls. Teammates will be mapped to actual buttons. So that as you're skating down the ice, it's like you'll have a choice of who you can pass to. So if you pass to somebody, you can't blame the computer anymore that you made a bad decision because you'll have said, I hit Y and I passed to the dude who I did not want to pass to because I forgot what the control scheme was because I'm playing on an Xbox controller and not a Nintendo controller.
Right, okay.
That's something to look forward to.
Sure. Because Beach was going to play this game.
Yeah.
Or this game was going to come out on Switch in the same form as everywhere else.
Yeah.
EA absolutely loves to strip down the versions they put out on Switch.
Yeah, we'll get cartoon big head mode is what we'll get.
Now, Graham talked about the Xbox 8 Strikes system,
which sounds ridiculous on the face of it, but
on the in the after show, which is, 8 strikes is sort of the
it just sounds like a lot.
overcoming. Yeah.
When I don't know.
If you say a slur, then it's like, well, that's 1 strike, and it's like, no, it isn't.
But yeah, they're different things, different amounts of strikes. And what is kind of interesting is along with this is sort of a revamp to the whole reporting or sort of
complaint?
Play or user reporting system, so that like you actually have like a little dashboard where you can see
Your demerits.
your current status and this kind of stuff, which is probably good to have. And the idea is that you have like strikes, you have a certain number of strikes, and then the strikes and the model they're using is sort of like points on your license.
Yeah.
Where
and they'll try to
sort
say demerits on your license these days because we want to be clear that it's because points have a positive connotation.
Yeah. But the sort of idea that and then after I think it's 6 months, one drops off.
Yeah.
Or the oldest one drops off and stuff. So
I am more in favor of an idea of what you'd have to do with your driver's license. It's like you know what? Screw it. Let's go all the way beach because it's a comedy show. I think you should have to get a license to be on Xbox Live. There. Let's start with that. Now, that means you'll have to take a test to decide to not be a complete jackass when you're on there. But then 2 is that when you start getting demerits on your Xbox license, that then you should have to take classes to make it come off. You should have to go to, like, you know, anger management seminars and stuff like that. You know, like, it's be like, as you get pointed, as you get demerited on your license, it should be like, well, I can get this stuff to come off, but in order to do that, I have to take specific classes, I have to do certain things, or I'll have to rewrite the entire test when I completely fail.
Okay.
Sure,
why not?
I do always like the this sort of 3-strike system.
Yeah.
Thing.
We're a comedy show?
I am.
Well, I mean, I know you are, but...
I know you are, but what am I?
It's...
but I always like these, things with, like, the 3-strike system. Because it's used, like, the idea of, like, the sort of 3-strike system is used in not only in, policy enforcement stuff, but it's used in, like, law.
Yeah.
In the courts.
Yeah.
In very serious circumstances. And it's like, would the legal framework that these are based on be different if the rules of baseball were different?
Or do we have a natural inclination as humans to say that it's like, okay, when you've done something 3 times, you've clearly established a pattern of behavior. So therefore, that's what we're using that, unless the baseball thing. But yeah, I mean, but if we played cricket, maybe it is completely different, right? That we wouldn't be doing it that way.
They still had strikes in cricket.
If you whiff on something, I'm not sure how often you can whiff on a ball in cricket, because I never see those highlights. I never see somebody. If you knock the thing off the wicket, you're out. So, but the way that it works in the Xbox thing is interesting, because it is like with the license, where you're like, okay, if I make a moving violation of a certain type, then I would only get 8 demerit on my license. Same here. It's like, if you curse at somebody, you might just it's only worth 1 strike. But if you actually engage in hate speech, that's 3 strikes. And because you have a maximum of 8, if you do that 3 times, you're out. So it is kind of like getting 3 strikes. And it's like, okay, so we'll modify the categories.
And there's also progressive, like, you get a strike and also you get
a suspension.
For certain amounts of time and stuff.
And so it's like, on 1 strike you get a day suspension. That's okay, whatever. But once you hit up to 4, it's like you're off for a month practically. It's
something like that.
It's pretty good. It basically is saying, this is.
I mean,
we're not just going to say, oh, naughty, naughty. It's like, you're going to have to sit out for a while.
I don't know if it's good or not. I think it's probably better than whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
I find that these systems, you can only tell if they're good or not once they go into practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this isn't changing the fundamental, like, it's still, this sort of policy and enforcement team that's reviewing these things and stuff is still the same team.
Yeah.
And these aren't being automatically applied. These are applied, people,
After review.
People put in a complaint or whatever, and then there's a review process, and then it gets applied. So, yeah, it's I mean, one of the things, Xbox, for various faults that they might have, historically, I feel like their policy and enforcement has actually been one of the better ones in the industry.
Yeah, because we might make fun of the people who
it's a
counter on Xbox, but we never make fun of the enforcement team.
It's a tough, obviously it's a tough job.
Yeah.
But more than most, I feel like Microsoft or Xbox or Microsoft has actually been willing to put the resources towards it that it requires.
Absolutely.
In the sense of both tools and manpower. So, anyway.
Next story?
Let's talk about Varco AI tools.
Oh, no.
NCSoft, the people behind Guild Wars 2,
Okay.
have developed a collection of AI language models that they are selling as part of a suite. There's is it Varco
Studio?
Varco Studio. So there's Varco Text, Varco Image, Varco Art, Varco Text, and Varco Human.
And that makes digital humans.
For creating, editing, and managing digital humans.
So that would be not just
So like your NPCs,
Okay, I see.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming the humans in the game and not humans in reality.
Yes.
Digital.
I don't want to hear
Yes.
about AI that's managing humans in reality.
Um,
I'm not sure about
That's
this
like a-
already, but I
That's like a
definitely don't want
staple
to.
of Star Trek and other
Now-
sci-fi, though, is that our whole
Yeah,
life is
and
run by a
that-
computer.
and that doesn't generally work
No,
well.
it doesn't.
Now they're a Korean company, so at the moment the language models are they've launched Korean language models, but they plan to bring out Korean English bilingual models and stuff. Now the main reason, the main reason why I marked this as a story is so this is their Varco suite.
Yeah.
That's a weird name.
Uh-huh.
Well, you see, it's a very reasonable name because
it?
Varco means it stands for Via AI Realize Your Creative Originality.
Wait.
Varco. Via AI Realize Your Creative Originality.
God, this. Like, I know that there's. This is it really feels like this is the evolution of asset flipping.
Can I have a piece of chocolate?
Yeah, you bet.
I feel like I deserve something else now.
Don't grab the one that has coconut in it.
Okay.
So
Is that both of these?
there's the
Is
big
it just this one?
the big rectangular one is a Kit Kat chunky.
This one's fine?
That one coconut as well.
That'll have coconut as well.
Okay,
So
I'm
just
eating
have
this
that
one.
one. Yes. Take your
Okay.
time with it. It might still be cold. It's so. I was thinking about this today because I'm like. Because I'm going to do ChillPoint, I'm like, well, there's an AI story, and how do I feel about AI so far? And I'm like, man, I don't like the idea of a computer doing all that work of generating AI language stuff. Or we were talking about translation and stuff the other night, like scanlation. I mentioned last night. I'm like, there was a scanlator I'm reading. It's like, look, at this point in the game, like fan scanlations, where it's like. I am willing to take you as a translator if you do machine translation, which means you're not really much of a translator, you're just feeding everything into Google and letting it translate back to you. But I'm only willing to do that if you make it sound like you go over it and you make it sound like actual goddamn English. So that it's like, yes, a machine is translating this, but then you take it and be like, I understand the language well enough that like, oh no, they're meaning to say this instead, so change that to make it sound like an actual English thing, change it to make sense. And I'm like, that idea is like, people are out there now being like, I want to translate stuff for fun, and I need more translators for my team to do the translation because I can't do the translation myself, but I'm really good at like the Photoshop side of it. And it's like, right, so people now are like, the hobby side of this is turning into, well, I guess we have to start using AI tools to be able to make up the difference of just the thing in my hobby that people are really driven to do.
They're not AI tools are not necessarily bad. It's in the way that we are using them. It's the way that we're using them in creative pursuits to replace people.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Like translation as a starting point is a good way to start.
Yeah.
Photoshop has a bunch of things that are like
Content-aware
content-aware
fill.
fill and stuff that are very handy. Paul has mentioned several times he would love to be able to tell a thing that he just wants a graphic with a word on it. It doesn't really require any...
Or two logos beside each other with the boxing gloves or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's real
You know.
fast. I just need this, right?
But I would like an artist to actually make a thing without 16 fingers on it unless I've requested that it have 16 fingers on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's that thing of like, well, why don't, what if you just had an artist who could actually do that stuff up for you? And it's like, it's true. Our turnaround times don't really allow for that, the way that we've been doing that work.
It's not like the tool itself is bad. It's the sense of like how people have decided to start using it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is...
Also, it's not real AI in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It just really feels weird to be like, we're going to use machine tools to do even more of this work, and creating a whole suite of stuff to be like, well, here you go, like now you've got this. And I'm like, it does really feel like this will be the next iteration of the asset flipping thing, because now you're letting it generate dialogue for you. Now you're letting it do a lot of other things. It's like,
So
I don't have time to do this.
I keep thinking you're saying acid flipping.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is acid
I
flipping?
can't remember what I can't remember the studio name I saw that said that that people were warning about on social media recently, but there's like a thing about a game studio that has decided that it is going to use AI in order to continue using voice work that without paying the voice actor because they have the voice lines.
Yeah.
And you have to really read your contracts now, and they put a bunch of those. They wouldn't let people even look at the contracts without NDA so that they couldn't talk about it, and like a bunch of just like really shitty, like, oh well, it goes beyond. It's just like we don't have your permission to do anything, and we don't need it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff where it's
high res. Thank you.
Where it's less, where it's not like we need, a voice here. It's we need to copy this specific person's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the things
now that person who did think like they've talked about it in terms of acting as well. People who were in the background of shots,
right?
And being a background actor can actually be, you can make a living out of if you can get into enough things. Yeah. But if the industry decides we don't need that anymore, then you don't even have the chance of trying to be a background actor and getting to move to the front, right? Like
it's
just replacing people in a terrible way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very tricky question because it is definitely a technology that does appear to be here to stay, and so how it's going to be used, and the sort of balance between being using it in ways that make things better and putting people out of the job is something that is very tricky.
Yeah.
Varco is a terrible name.
Varco.
Varco?
Varco is a terrible name.
It just seems like a place that I would go to buy discount meat.
Discount meat. Speaking of people doing jobs of computers, sort of. This is actually pretty cool. So this is a game on. Somebody is brought this out on. It's just like it's a web game on itch.io. It is called You're the OS, and it's basically, you could think of it as like Tapper. Okay. Like the with the people buying beers and stuff.
You keep money in, you have to keep sliding them down the
Which is, when you think about it, a lot of what your OS is doing in terms of scheduling different apps and stuff. So basically, the thing is, you have to move things in and out of memory. If a program like is not allowed to act stuff for too long, then the user will get annoyed because it's it's stuff, and if it stays for too long, they'll like force quit it.
Yeah.
And if they force quit too many things, they'll restart their computer, which is...
This is like Diner Dash, but your OS.
Yeah, which basically means that you've lost by that point if you were the OS. It's like, oh, I couldn't keep up, so now I have to...
Yeah, so you have to, schedule things into different CPU slots and do all stuff. Apparently it's like really hard, which... to be fair, is probably true. The person in this article was like, I only lasted like 7 minutes.
It's an unusual interface because like looking at it, it's just a sea of, it looks like a Steam Deck next to a periodic table. And I don't really get, I mean, obviously if I played it, I'd probably get it more, but it's like, the idea of like, oh, do this, now press this button, now press this button, now, like you're constantly pressing buttons to kind of handle the stuff that's coming at you. Like, very interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was a fun thing, and to kind of give you just a general idea, when you're like, what are you doing? Yeah. Why can't I get the thing? Your OS is usually very busy. It might be very busy doing something that you don't want it to do.
Yeah.
But is busy. Hey, follow up on a story from last week.
There's some more Netflix news?
I was really tempted to do this one.
There's actually, there's actually an app, a game, that you can play on Netflix now. I think
Like
there's
with the controller app, not like
Yeah,
like,
with the
did they just
controller
finally
app.
put out a game for the first time because I believe we established they have games.
There are 2 games that are currently apparently in beta testing for playable for certain people, with auction free, and Molehew's Mining Adventure,
Okay,
which is not
know that
available on like the regular app either. At the moment, it does not work with at the moment anyway. It doesn't work with like separate tethered controllers.
Okay.
You got to use the on-screen controller thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's basically you're watching video from Netflix and sending the controls to Netflix, which is changing the video that you're watching, right? So it's like it's a complete
they're doing a cloud gaming thing.
a complete cloud gaming thing.
Yeah.
Which is the interesting thing about that though, is it means that this runs on anything. Like this doesn't actually need any new infrastructure on the device that's playing the Netflix, which is kind of cool.
Right.
So, your Roku, your smart TV, your whatever can already do this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat.
Yeah, it's the idea of like you've got and they're saying doesn't use other controllers, it doesn't use anything else. It's like you have a smartphone. Pretty much everybody has a smartphone these days.
Everyone has a smartphone.
And now it's like, okay, this is why the game controller app showed up on the app stores in the first place, was because they were beta testing a lot of this stuff, because there's a limited beta running in Canada and the UK, and not even everybody gets access to the games there either. So if you have Netflix in Canada or in the UK, you may have access to these new games and you may be able to try playing them.
I didn't see it. I looked in my Netflix on my computer, on my home, but I didn't seem to have it.
Yeah, I didn't. I hadn't actually checked mine yet to see if I have access to it or not, because I mostly kind of don't care about playing things on a soft controller. So
I mean, like something like Auction Free or something, which is not like sort of Twitch
like
reflex based.
Yeah. That mining one might be though.
Yeah, who knows?
It might be like the like SteamWorld Dig, like that kind of game where it's like, oh, it's a mining adventure. So what do you do? It's like, well, it's not like Minecraft. It's more of maybe a side-scrolling thing. You go down, you find treasures, that kind of idea.
I'm assuming it's going to be 2D.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a 3D-esque thing.
Here's a game called Little Devil Foster Mayhem.
It says I can destroy furniture.
Yeah, this is one of these games that like sounds super fun, but also there's kind of a dark undercurrent to it, because you're playing as a little kid who gets passed between different foster homes, and your goal is to create as much mess and trouble as possible without getting caught by your foster parents.
Jesus.
But just like destroying stuff, woo, that's fun. But then there's this like undercurrent.
So I understand, because the thing said stealth destruction game or whatever. I understand. I was a child once, that you think that you can do things and destroy things and no one will notice because they didn't see you do it.
Right.
Adults will just blame you anyway, whether or not you did do it.
Yeah,
so I don't really see the stealth in that. Especially if you're like the kid who's been cut from your foster home like a couple of times, and you're like on your third foster home, and then like I don't know, you destroy a couch.
Folks were saying that Alex played something like this on Watch and Play.
You destroy the TV like that,
a while
I think
ago.
they're gonna blame you. I don't.
I don't get it. I don't get the impetus. Like,
but this is apparently a new game, so I don't know.
Okay.
Oh no! If you get caught, wait. You get
Prank interrupted. This is like a combination. You're like, there's also like looks like there's like a whatever, dear neighbor going on here.
pranks
You
like
bribed the dog?
like breaking the dishwasher, or pranks like lighting your house on fire, or pranks like stealing all the stuff out of your house,
I'm confused.
Maybe the
like blowing up a toilet. What a great prank! Oh my god.
maybe the what Alex, like what they played on Watch and Play might have been like some sort of like early preview version of this.
I mean, I'm not saying it's probably fun.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the plot.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it bugs me so much. I can't.
Like, why
Hello
can't-
Neighbor bugged me too. The idea of like, oh, go hide around your neighbor's
Yeah,
house and
Hello
try
Neighbor
to
was
escape them or
definitely
whatever.
not
And I'm
my-
like, no, don't
my
do
favorite.
that. But that's a terrible idea.
I mean, but why couldn't you just be ransacking your regular parents' house
Yeah, I guess.
and ruining their lives rather than ruining why have the foster
Yeah,
parents
what-
aspect?
Exactly. I guess there's. Yeah, I don't really.
Oh, Temper Tantrum by Digital Homicide was a separate game.
I hope that there's a part like at the end of the game, like the thing at the very end of this game is that it's like it's 20 years later and you're living on your own finally. You've gotten out of your foster parents' house and whatever. Because I'm assuming the idea is that your foster parents are incredibly mean to you and that's why you're destroying all their shit.
I don't
Right.
think that's what's going on.
I'm
here.
not sure, but the idea of like, hey, so I hope that you get to at the end of the game be like you're 22 years old, you've got your own apartment, you're working and doing whatever now, and now you just an impulse overcomes you and you decide to destroy your own shit in your own house. I hope that's the end of the
I
game.
doubt-
Or you
Content.
have like a reconciliation with your foster.
Well, that'd be kind of nice too,
foster-
right? Yeah. I just meant like, if I'm gonna be breaking shit, why don't I just break all my own shit too? That'll be fun.
All right. Well, here in more fun games news, here's a super fun game, Pokemon Sleep. What's so fun about it? You get to sleep.
It's cute. I stopped playing it after like 5 days.
After it
Playing.
kept recording bees making weird noises.
Well, I mean that doesn't help. But,
It wasn't all me.
no, I have still value.
Oh.
You can't
sometimes
fix otherwise.
it was the weird third person that just comes in and stands looking over the bed.
Hey. It's like, that's weird.
I mean, to be honest, I figure if I have it turned on and it's recording things, then at least when I get murdered, they'll be recording of it on my phone. Not my beach, by this third mystery person.
Thank you. It's like I'm not gonna say anything, but let's just hang out here for a second. Okay, good. What's new for Pokemon Sleep?
So there's an update coming that will optimize the app's battery usage when it is in sleep tracking mode, which would be good. But more importantly, they are adding new Pokemon. So right now, Pokemon Sleep is centered around. You might not be surprised that it's centered around what's his name? The big Snorlax, which is the Pokemon known for sleeping.
Big Sleepy. Yeah.
You feed him and he levels up, and then he has more like sleep power that I can't remember what they actually call it, but essentially sleep power that gets other Pokemon to come and want to sleep around. So
Yeah.
when you wake up, that they're there.
Pokemon like to sleep around.
So they are going to be where's the they're going to be giving people a bunch of presents, Poke Biscuits, Handy Candy, growth increase and growth incense and focus
you
incense.
can use certain incense to. So the way this app works, if you're unfamiliar with it, is you open it, and then you turn your phone upside down so that it fades out the screen, because it runs all night. So you have to have it plugged in.
So you're putting it glass down on your
bed,
screen
because it
down.
also has to be on the bed with you,
Right.
in order to
Detect movement.
And so you do have like just your phone open and on all night.
But running with the display probably off, I'm assuming. Like it
Right.
probably
You can't click the button to turn the display off. It
okay.
fades the screen out.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's not powering the screen.
No.
But the app is still running in the background.
But your
yeah.
phone is unlocked all night,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. Someone
yeah.
else can pick it up and do
Right.
the thing.
Yeah. Send text on your behalf.
No, I don't know. I haven't used a lot of other sleep tracking apps. I have the Fitbit one, but I have a Fitbit. But so I don't know if that's common or not amongst sleep tracking apps. But it is a very basic sleep tracking app. The only difference is you wake up in the morning and some Pokemon have fallen asleep, and in kind of a sense of like Pokemon Snap, you click on them and you fill out your sleep decks with different ways Pokemon sleep. It's cute.
Yeah. And so they're going to be adding some more Pokemon. Unfortunately, I thought this article said which Pokemon that they're adding, but apparently they haven't actually announced that. This article has a picture of a Mareep, which I hope they do add if they're not in there already. Mm-hmm. Although Mareep being a sheep Pokemon makes sense, although it is an electric sheep, so maybe that's not so good.
Electric sheep dream of sleep? No way, they dream of electric sheep. That's the...
Yeah, androids do.
Yeah. So they'd be perfect for it'd be perfect for an android, yeah. I just also kind of like the idea of all these different Pokemon, like making their various Pokemon noises.
Yes. While they sleep.
Well, to lull you into a sleep. As we all know, some Pokemon are terrifying. So hopefully they don't add the ones that are like, will kill you in your sleep. I mean, as somebody in the chat says, there is like dream eating is a thing.
Yeah, so that's like I think that's mostly ghost Pokemon that do that.
Yeah.
So they, in terms of like the fighting game, they try to put you to sleep and then you dream eat to do damage.
What was the like I was saying, playing Scarlet and Violet with my brother, and we were going for a Pokemon because we were going after a specific thing, so wanting to get the right Pokemon to fight it. Mm-hmm. And wanted to get an Annihilate.
Oh, okay, sure.
Which to get that you've got to get a whatever the Primeape, and then you have to get a Primeape to use their Rage Fist 20 times.
Yeah.
And then you get Annihilate.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay.
Which is fine, except then you get the description of Annihilate, which is the most hardcore. So Annihilate evolves from Primeape when the rage in its soul becomes too much for its physical form to contain. It gains increased power as a result of its rage no longer being limited by the flesh. The rage that was bubbling inside fills its punches with force that frightens its targets to the core. That sounds like the origin story for like a
Spider-Man supervillain?
Or like a super edgy late 90s like Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
Superhero, he's like, I'm so full of rage that I have superpowers.
My flesh has fallen off of my body and now I'm just a ghost that punches shit.
I feel like I found a new way to install ghosts.
Yeah.
Make people super angry until they become ghosts.
It's so angry it dies and becomes a ghost.
Yeah. Holy crap. Does it actually become a ghost type?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's a fighting ghost type.
Goddamn Pokemon. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There are some weird things in Pokemon for sure.
Rage monkeys. Cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
Does this have to help you sleep?
Yeah, I don't think Annihilate is going to be one of the ones that's going to help you sleep.
I sleep angry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, you fill out a sleep deck, so it like, and I bring up Pokemon Snap because you take pictures and you're trying to get like specific kinds of photos of them doing stuff, and this is just different sleep types. I don't know how many Pokemon there are in Pokemon Sleep right now. I assume it's like maybe 100 or so, just to start. because I feel like it's gonna be one of those apps that keeps updating, and eventually they'll get like a bunch of other Pokemon in there.
Makes sense.
I don't think you evolve any of them. I think you just have to get them to show up and sleep.
Because, I mean, I guess if they evolve by sleeping, then that would work. But you don't, like, interact with them that much other than the sleeping part, right?
Not really. You just kind of get them in the morning. You can feed the Snorlax during the day because you can friend some of them. That's what the biscuits are for. When they wake up, you can give them food until they become your friend, and then they'll stay and help pick up berries and stuff to feed Snorlax with.
You ever seen those adorable YouTube
That's
videos
right. You can involve them. I forgot about that.
where a guy has like a pet rabbit that's asleep,
Oh, okay.
and then while it's asleep, he like surrounds it with little bits of carrots and like celery and things it likes to eat,
Right,
like
yeah.
while it's asleep.
Okay.
And then he just films it, and then the rabbit just like wakes up and is like, oh, food. No,
Just magically appeared, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. You get like specific candies from them or something, and then you have to level them up, and then they evolve eventually. Again, I only played the game for like 5 days. I mostly just got tired of. I didn't delete it right away.
Right.
I just got tired of like having to open it up on my phone and do the thing, and then waking up and then doing that first thing.
Right.
That I didn't care for that, and then so I didn't turn it on a couple nights in a row, and the game was like, hey.
You haven't been sleeping.
Your Pokemon would like if you came and did the thing, or
no.
if you fed Snorlax, or you did whatever, and I was just like, I don't care.
I don't want to be guilt tripped by my game.
I just didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your Pokemon can't sleep if you're not there.
Like if it could like integrate with my Fitbit, so I could just use the sleeping app section of that.
Oh,
That's what I-
that'd be cool.
That'd be nice.
I had expected
I'm
that.
not gonna buy the. There's I don't know if you have to have the app on or not when you. Maybe you don't, because they made that accessory that's like
there's like
Pokemon Go plus or something, and
Yeah.
it's like a disc that's supposed to work with Pokemon Go as well for catching things, but you can also activate it for Pokemon Sleep. But it's also like $80 or something really dumb. Like, I'm not paying
Right.
that.
Yeah. If it wasn't more of a watch, that it was like more of like, because your Fitbit has a display on it that shows you the
Yeah.
time, or you could set an alarm or whatever. I'm like, if they actually did release like a $120 or $150 watch type thing that actually had a display, and you maybe do a couple of like little things like set timers
Yeah.
and stuff on it, but then also it integrates with Go and with Sleep and with all these other apps, I think you'd find a lot of people would be like, hey, it's a reasonable looking watch. It's got like maybe a little Pokemon theming, but nothing too heavy on it. Maybe the crown, maybe if it's a crown, it has a little Pokeball crown or some shit. And it's like, yeah, something that you could wear around as an adult, that you can afford to buy as an adult, but then also integrates with all the stuff. I feel like you'd actually
Maybe.
get somewhere with that.
Maybe at that point,
you could
yeah.
call it Pokken Watch.
The Pokemon watch.
Anyway, that's all the news that I have marked. Anyway, I don't know. It's a little bit longer between when ChillPoint came out and now, so it's possible this stuff happened on Friday or Saturday.
Anything specific? I've been busy though, so.
Nothing. Can't have been anything terribly important.
Pete has been playing Tunic.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Finally.
I am missing one page of my manual,
Oh,
which Heather did eventually let me in. She's like, you should maybe just go and try to do ending A. And I'm like, okay. She's like, maybe you don't want to think about that page you're missing right now and just maybe go do the other thing because you seem to have done everything else in the game. I'm like, okay.
maybe the page you're missing is like the index or something.
Yeah, well, I know which
it's-
page I'm missing. It's the front cover.
Oh,
But it's like you have to maybe not worry about that right now. I'm like, okay, I will not worry about it right now, and I'll just go try to do this other thing.
yeah. Are you I mean, you're a pretty heavy completionist kind of person.
Yes.
I didn't go all the way for completion on Tunic, so I'll be interested to see how far you get on that.
I did. We were the other night. We were sitting around.
There's a lot of secrets in that one.
Yes, and
He's
so
gotten
we
all
were,
the fairies.
yeah, and so there were some treasures I also didn't get.
There's
'cause
one treasure he hasn't gotten, but he needs the front page to get it.
Yeah. And I was trying to do that, but Heather was like, you should just not worry about that right now. You can come back and do that in a little bit. And I'm like, okay, cool. But we figured out the because I managed to get, I found all the fairies. There were certain. I was having trouble inputting stuff on the. You're gonna hate this if you didn't know about this. I was having trouble, like I was inputting stuff on the D-pad, but time and time, it would like I'm doing it right. I'm doing this inputs, and things are not happening. I don't know why. And then I go into the options, and there's a thing that says assistance, something in assistance.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called.
under the accessibility options, there's like assistance mode where it brings up a big screen. You can dupe in all of your directions. You can even go back if you mess up.
Yeah.
And then you can just hit accept, and it will do all of them
On the screen immediately
screen.
for you.
Wow.
And so if that unlocks something, it will unlock
Is that a
something.
new thing?
I don't know, because like I played the Steam version like you did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall seeing that, but I also didn't really dive into the accessibility options at all.
Because that would have been super handy. Like that,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted something like that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so that's in there, and I was like, oh, I see. This is really so we started using that a little bit more while trying to figure things out. And then, but on a lot of treasures, I basically we were like, okay, this is the treasure. We're listening to the thing. We're figuring thing out. Okay, and then finally I'm like, okay, Heather, we've done it like 4 or 5 times now. Can you just go look up the answer? Go look at the answer. Oh yeah, we were off by 1 or something. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music one was very difficult.
Yeah, it's always there's always that aspect of puzzle games where, like, I don't know, I always find there's like 2 kinds of puzzles that I get stuck on. The ones where you're like, you go and look up the answer and you're like, oh, that's cool, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I should have known that. There's the ones where you look it up and you're like,
how?
You're like, okay, I was nowhere close. I'm glad I looked that up, because I just would have spent 5 hours dicking around.
Exactly.
Or there's the ones where you're just like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Why?
Wait, yeah, that's what I've been doing. Why is it not working for me?
Yeah, why is it not working?
It's especially weird if you like watch somebody, like, because you'll go up, like, if you look up a video tutorial, because sometimes the written out thing is really hard to understand, and you watch it, you're like, that's what I've been doing. And then you go and you do it, and it just, like, works all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I don't.
And you're like, oh, I had to stand in like a specific spot and do it,
Yeah.
or whatever.
But we got our copy for Switch. So
Oh, nice.
He's just been playing it. Yeah, Fangamer did a physical. They also did a physical like hard copy of the book that you can get separately. It's just really
Right?
cool.
Yeah.
It's got a little sticker on the outside of it that's like, you can look through it if you want, but if you haven't played the game yet, maybe you want to wait.
Yeah.
That's
very
super
cute.
cool though. Like especially like once you've unlocked all the pages, having the book as a reference actually would be super handy.
Well, yeah,
Well-
our friend Joe Trollo actually printed out
The entire
manual for Beach, and so as he's been playing, we've been like giving him physical pages to look through if he wants
nice.
to.
So as I would find a page that Joe would go through the thing, he's like, okay, here's the page you need. And I'm like, because you can look at it on our screen, and I'm like, oh, but I can have the page here and I can read it.
Yeah.
And multiple times Heather and Joe said to me, he's like, you have all the answers you need. They're all there in the manual. Like everything you need to know is there in the manual. It's like I can't read it. Like, will I get a key to try to figure it out? It's like, yeah, but no, don't need it.
It's been fun because we've been watching Beach play at home.
Right.
He hasn't been doing this online, but we've been watching, and he'll sometimes bring up the digital manual, and we're trying to remember and figure out what happened from our playthroughs, because our playthroughs were for like a year ago.
Right.
So we'll like pick up the physical manual and look through it and be like, does he have that thing yet? Oh, he doesn't. Okay, don't say anything. Or, oh, he does. Okay, we'll see if he can figure it out. Like, it's been fun.
Yeah, but it's it's been very good. Oh, things we should mention, I guess, if we're gonna wrap up. We're going to PAX West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PAX West at the beginning of September.
Yep.
September 1st to 4th.
We'll be in Bandland at the Summit building. So Seattle Convention Center has now gotten very weird. Is that there's a brand new Seattle Convention Center building, which is near the old Washington State Convention Center building. But that old building is actually now just called Seattle Convention Center. But it's called the Aura? It's got a different name. It's the Seattle Convention Center where the annex and everything else was. It has its own name for what building it is. And then like near the Grand Hyatt, there's another Seattle Convention Center building called the Summit. And that's where a bulk of the stuff is going to be.
We're going to be at the Summit.
We're in the Summit.
We're on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's where Bandland is.
Yeah.
And it'll be you and me.
Yep. Ian and
Corey.
Alex.
and Jacob.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Joe's also he's coming down too.
He's
so
gonna
he's
hang
going to
out
help
with
at the booth from time to time as well. So,
So yeah, that's what's going on, and then of course we've got the pre-release next weekend. You should check that out if you're into the magical cards, because all sorts of fancy new stuff going to come out.
If you don't watch our streams live on Twitch, the VOD for the PPR will end up on youtube.com/LRRMTG eventually. Generally a couple days after, depending on how long that takes to go through.
And and of course, everything we do is supported by you on our Patreon, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, here on Twitch, or through YouTube, or various other ways, like the store.loadingreadyrun.com. Lots of cool stuff on there for you to purchase and check out. So, thank you very much for joining us, and we will talk to all y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.